that volumes have actually 10x over the course of 2021, for example. So at the end of 2020, we were getting institutional volumes around 120 billion on our platform. That increased to 1.14 trillion by the end of 2021.
Hello and welcome. This is the Daily Crypto. In today's video, we have David Duong with us, who is the head of research at Coinbase. He is going to talk about institutional adoption and regulatory needs. So make sure to watch till the end, because this is not something you want to miss out on.
Yeah, I actually have seen that volumes have actually 10x over the course of 2021, for example. So at the end of 2020, we were getting institutional volumes around 120 billion on our platform. That increased to 1.14 trillion by the end of 2021. So we are seeing that institutionals actually are stepping in here. I think 2021 was a very big onboarding year for them. And certainly not all of them were prepared for what it took to actually be there, because you needed back-end systems, risk systems, research, like a lot of things that I think they didn't necessarily have in place. They thought it was going to be 2-3 months that they were just able to kind of step in. And it turned out that there was a lot that actually it was a little bit different. Like the technology is really innovative, but these systems aren't necessarily that progressive. So that back end had to be built out. Now, of course, we're kind of going through a bit of a lull in the crypto period. But I think for a lot of institutionals, if they were interested in this 6 months ago or a year ago, they're even more interested in it now, because the valuations are a lot better for them. And we probably will start seeing that cash come in the second half of the year.
When Bitcoin started getting attention in 2013, institutions like JP Morgan were against it and openly called it a Ponzi that hackers and scammers used. However, times have changed now, and we saw mass adoption in 2020 and 2021, when the crypto market cap jumped by hundreds of billions of dollars due to the massive influx of capital from retail and institutional investors. Since then, institutional adoption has kept on rising, and as David said, it 10 times in 2021 alone. This is pretty big, because now we will see even more institutions jumping in.
I think institutional investors in particular are savvy. They actually know that there's volatility in the market. The volatility is kind of what lubricates their ability to take advantage of cycles. And what we're seeing right now is a cyclical downturn. It is not something structural. I think the fundamental narrative surrounding cryptocurrencies is still that the secular curve for adoption is still very steep. And I think that as long as that trend is going to be there, you want to capture that. So I don't think anyone's under the impression that things are only going to go linearly up forever, because there's no asset that does that. And certainly cryptocurrencies don't fall into that bucket. I think that we are talking about long duration, speculative assets that, yes, sometimes are influenced by hype cycles, and we got a lot of that in the second half of last year, for example. But there is still a lot of opportunity to be had here, and we are just in the early stages for a lot of these developments.
Institutional investors are much more research-focused and make their investment decisions after doing their due diligence. This is why they know that cryptocurrencies can be highly volatile, requiring them to manage risk accordingly, which is exactly what they do. Bigger institutions know that this is a long-term play, as crypto will take some time to become mainstream.
So there's a really wide range of clients and education levels when it comes to crypto. And some are very much at that level of, okay, we're trying to figure out custody solutions. We're trying to figure out should we be having a cold wallet or a hot wallet? Are we able to trade on your balance sheet in order to use that? Because we have long, short strategies we want to go. And there are some who are literally asking, we understand what a blockchain is, but can you tell us about what investments are there available beyond Bitcoin and Ethereum? Because we really don't have a grasp on that, And so there are some that are really far up that curve, and they completely know what they need in the space, and they are looking for, probably to kind of your question, when are we going to get the regulatory clarity on this? And just even yesterday, they'll be asking me what do you think about Cynthia Loomis's Kirsten Gillibrand's bill? Do you think it's going to be progressive, positive for the space? Where are we going to see that? They're trying to figure out what about commingling of assets with the custody account? So there is that. but I think there's just as many people who are just trying to figure out kind of just the beginnings of their crypto journey and trying to understand where they fall. And
One of the biggest obstacles to institutional adoption is regulation. There are many investment firms sitting on the sidelines waiting for proper regulation of the crypto space because as of now, it's the Wild West. As soon as the SEC lays down clear policies for cryptocurrencies, we will see massive institutions pouring in billions of dollars.
like when we're talking about levels of sophistication as well, you have to look at the segments within certain fund managers or companies, because there's oftentimes I'm going to say skews younger kind of group within that who is very knowledgeable about the space. Like even within pension funds or endowments or other places, people seem to think of these as conservative institutions, but they know what they're talking about. They understand cryptocurrencies, they understand the technology. I was at a conference a couple weeks ago where it was mainly macro focused, and at least 30% of it was dedicated to the idea of cryptocurrencies. So where 3 years ago, I would say you go to a fund manager and you say hey, what's your view on cryptocurrencies? They'd probably be like, why do I need to know that?
Yeah.
Now, if you go to one and they don't have a view on cryptocurrencies, you'll be like, well, you're not gonna be taken seriously.
Yeah.
And I think that's very much where we are at this point. So there's still some education to kind of get further up, like the food chain for some of these companies. But for the most part, they're all looking at it. And I think crypto literacy is actually picking up very fast.
As people learn more about cryptocurrencies, it's obvious that some of them would want to invest in different crypto assets. This is why investment firms and other institutions have to have deep knowledge about the crypto space, because their customers will ask for advice at some point.
I really want to see what comes at the end of all of these things, because there's such a jurisdictional approach in the US, at least, in terms of how regulation is happening. And Congress is doing this. I think the bill is very innovative in kind of what it's trying to push, the one proposed by Loomis and Gillibrand. But also I would love to see what kind of comes out from the executive order we had in March with the Treasury Department that's going to be reported sometime in the end of September, October. I think unfortunately there's been a bit of a land grab when it comes to regulation so far in the space. And even though these agencies have a memorandum of understanding, which means that they should be working together, and maybe some ways they are, some ways they aren't. I would like to see a more cohesive approach to kind of this, because we want the regulatory clarity. We want the oversight in the space. We just don't want regulation by enforcement. I think that is like the principle that we're kind of guided by. Other than that, I think that we're very welcoming to, you want to put some framework around stablecoins? That's great.
The crypto market needs regulation now more than ever. Disasters like Luna could have been avoided if there was a clear set of rules around stablecoins, but so far there isn't. Another thing that David likes to talk about is the excessive regulation. We don't need crypto to be regulated in such a way that its core principle of decentralization is lost. How big of a role do you think institutions will play in widespread adoption of Bitcoin? Should the crypto space be regulated by the SEC? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Support us by liking this video and subscribing to our channel. Stay tuned for more informational videos like these.